died. You're with Julian on the Brown Note, a review of the new movie Drop, which I think is on streaming now, but it was actually released in the cinema and didn't do too badly considering it only had an $11 million budget. Directed by Christopher Landon, who has a career going back to 1998, mainly as a writer but also as a director as well of horror movies. And the production team on this is very surprising. Michael Bay, Brad Fuller, two heavyweight titans of big budget films, and Jason Blum, and it's a Blumhouse production that's very much synonymous with horror movies. Whereas this is a very different kind of movie. It stars Meghann Fahy as Violet Gates, who is a woman that had survived a domestic violence relationship with her husband and his death, and is now bringing up her son, who's actually fairly cute as far as movie kids go. So she sets up on a date. Her sister comes over to take care of the babysitting duties, and she goes off to meet Brandon Skelner as Henry Campbell, who is her date, who's a photographer. Now, most of this movie actually takes place in the restaurant, and that sort of environment and the story being told is very much at odds with everyone involved in the production side of things. It's a very interesting take. So the caveat here is that the entire movie is based around the notion of airdrop, which is that somebody around you can send you messages to your mobile phone as long as they're within 50 feet in this instance. And she starts receiving messages when she meets this guy for dinner. She's already very nervous, but it puts a kibosh on the whole thing because this guy is asking her to do more and more extreme things, which sort of begin with the you've got to distract this guy and destroy the SIM card in his camera. And we sort of guess early on that he's got evidence of big corruption going on and so on. There isn't an original bone in any part of this film, not one. It is very well done, though. It is really well done. I think one of the things that I struggle with a film like this, where one character is continually having to act a certain way, is secondhand social embarrassment, which is much the case here. Is he keeps making her do outlandish things in public to the waiters and to to her date and so on, where she's just put in these humiliating situations. There was a recent James McAvoy movie. Was it See No Evil or something like that? Where I turned it off because the amount of social embarrassment that was coming through in the first 20 minutes. So I can't watch this. I did feel that a little bit because she's continually humiliating herself where the other people don't know what's going on. It's really well shot, actually. The whole restaurant is really well shot. They are a bit insufferable. I don't know why people that make movies, perhaps they're reflecting themselves, think that we always need to have people that are incredibly successful and incredibly wealthy as the protagonists. I mean, she's got a massive home and she's like this big wig. And so she's now a psychiatrist in real life looking after people that have suffered domestic violence situations and so on. And some of that is so chintzy and cheesy that it's almost unbearable to get through. Like the initial consultation she has with one of her patients is just so cheesy. It's just like, oh. And it does take a little while to sort of click into gear when they're in the restaurant. It does have flaws. I mean, it's a lack of originality could be one. I don't really think it is, but I guess the film that it most reminded me of was a very different film, which was Non-Stop, which was one of the better Liam Neeson actioners. And in that film, he's on a plane and he's got a mobile phone where he's constantly getting messages that force him to do things throughout the course of the flight, or they'll blow up the plane. This time around, they show security camera footage that the sister and her son are at home, but there's a masked man inside the house, and he's going to kill them both unless she does what she's told. Plenty about it is a little bit incredulous. Some of the scenarios, the way that things happen, is a bit incredulous. Another flaw I thought was the Brandon Skelner character. He's like, you know how you get American romance movies, and they've always got, the woman has a very rich, successful partner that won't do something for her, or who is, arrogant or something or other. So she goes back to her small town, and there's a guy in a plaid shirt who's a vet, usually, or an artist in some way, who's the perfect guy. He will just put up with all manner of shenanigans and just apologise to her for her own behaviour. He very much comes across as that guy. He's someone that, no matter how out of order she's behaving, and it's not her fault, she's being forced into it, he just keeps apologising for her. It was a bit insufferable. It was like you belong in a rom-com. And also, when we find out who his character is, the idea that he would be on a date like this is just ridiculous. He's got much more important things going on in his life. And there were some really good things. I mentioned the filming and structure of the restaurant was really well done, even if all these people are insufferably wealthy. And the way that they just have everyone at their beck and call when it comes to wait stuff. I thought the gay waiter was quite funny. Absolutely insufferable, but in an entertaining way. I thought he was pretty good. And I did like some of it is obvious all the way through. Most of it is eventually going to be obvious to anyone that's seen the film before. But I thought the revelation of who it was done really well. Because I was the photographer's the guy that's doing all of this and so on. But the way that they actually reveal the villain, I thought was really, really good. And the involvement of the pianist as well, this sleazy pianist, actually turns out to be a good guy that suffers for his decency in the end. And once I could get past the second-hand social embarrassment, which is probably something for me, which I really struggle with when people humiliate themselves on screen. I kind of struggle with that actually being an element, and it's all the way through. But once it sort of amps up to getting into slightly more violent territory, and there's some the whole window sequence is pretty over the top. Wow. And then she's great. I thought Meghann Fahy was great in this, and she shows herself to be a relatively gung-ho action star. So this is like catnip for the kind of movie you don't want to invest in and that you didn't intend to watch, but it's a Friday night and all the other ones sound terrible. It's well worth watching. I thought it was at least the main guy is very, very... the main girl, Meghann, is very, very good in her role. And she's asked to do quite a lot of different things. And I think it's Reed Diamond is the diner of interest as well. He's very good. Definitely John Malkovich vibes going through. And it reminded me a bit of that John Malkovich... a very small bit of that John Malkovich Clint Eastwood film. I can't remember. In Line of Fire. Their relationship... it could have been borne out more, but then it's a very short film, and it given its limited environs, it doesn't overstay its welcome. It could have got very tedious, but it is repetitive. There's a sequence in this film where she has to go through hell to get them moved away from the window because all the tables have got listening devices on. And then she goes through hell to move them back. And it's just so there's too much repetition as well, but beautifully shot, well helmed by the director, pretty well written, even if everything is as obvious as it can be, and an engaging thriller, in a very slightly Hitchcock sense, I think, with a nice bloody payoff at the end as well, which I thought was inevitable, but it's pretty well done. So I'm going to drop a solid 7 out of 10. It's an enjoyable hokum. I'm not sure what it got on the other